Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about North Star Games from Osprey Games, Oathmark. There's 30 miniatures in the box. This is a skeleton infantry box, and we're going to open this up. We're going to take a look at what comes inside. Now, here's the back of the box. It says Skeleton Infantry, 30 multi-parts. They come on the square bases. They look kind of Greek, actually. It's kind of cool. There's very few parts. It looks like it's just the body, a couple arms, a head, and maybe some weapons or something. A little story of the skeletons on the back of the box. And there's a couple of websites. You can go to Osprey or you can go to North Star Figures. All right, let's open this up, see what we get inside, and we'll take a look at them. All right, what you can see here is we get 30 bases, all 25 millimeter square. You get 10 per sprue, and 3 sprues equals 30. All right, let's take a look at these sprues that came in the box. There are 6 sprues. Each sprue comes with 5 skeletons. Let's take a look at them. I believe that every sprue is exactly the same. I'm laying them on top of each other to make sure that they're all exactly the same. And yep, they're all exactly the same. So you get 6 sprues with 5 figures each. That's a total of 30 skeleton warriors. Okay, so we can just put these 5 off to the side, keep 1, and we can zoom in on it and kind of take a look at everything you get on it. All right, right here you can see the skeleton. It's a solid body. It's pretty sturdy. It's got a fairly large base of its own. The legs are pretty stout. I prefer the torso to be mounted to the legs, and you can see a couple of different, got a breastplate on one, you got rags and like a shin guard on another, and then it looks like more rags, and maybe that's a belt hanging around his waist, and then you just keep on going. And there's different poses. He's got a big breastplate as well. It's like a disc with leather straps holding it in place. He's got rags as a belt as well, and then he's got another shin plate right there. You can see that there are 5 quivers of arrows, and that's per sprue. So if you wanted to make 30 archers, you would be able to do that. Quite a bit of detail on the rib cage and the leather strap. Extremely pleased with the way these look. I don't see any flash or mold lines. I do want to point out that this was also made by Renedra, which I think they make a lot of stuff for like Perry and Warlord, and yeah, they're a big model company. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, let's go to the second rank. We got arms here for holding shields. In their hands, you got these little leather handles. There's a little shoulder socket right there that the arm would just glue into. You got some straight arms, and then you also have some bent arms. And every shield has different rivet patterns or rivet designs. So you get 5 of them. So you get 1 per model. So if you wanted to make 30 guys with shields, you would be able to do that. If you want to make a mix of archers and shieldmen, you could do that. All right, we're continuing on. The next row is the archery row. You got bows that are bent back like they're being, like someone's pulling them back. You got a couple of arms that look like they're loading, and a couple of arms that look like they're holding the arrow, shooting, and then you've got a couple of bows here. Looks like 3 bows that look like they've already fired, so they're bent forwards. And then there's a guy down there with just his two fingers knocking, but there's no arrow. I don't know about that helmet. Looks like there's, I don't know what that is. Okay, but then you got a number of heads with no helmet. That looks like a spear, and it looks realistic too. The spear doesn't look like a freaky fantasy spear. It actually looks like a realistic spear. It's being thrust forward. Now that helmet looks a little bit like, not Ultron. Maybe it is Ultron. And then you got, looks like a Viking Celt style hat. Okay, now you got this spear here, and there's this really long spear. I thought it was a pike at first, but then there was a spear up there, and this is a pike. But I realized it has a notch close to the top of it that crossbar can be attached to it. There's like a little divot right there, little bump, and then on the back of the crossbar there's a little hole where that divot would go into. So if you wanted to fly like a fantasy banner or something like that, you could do that. I got some weird helmets, and I got some thrusting spears, and then other arms where they're just holding the spear up. Spears and shields would be a good combination. And then at the very bottom, you've got the hand weapons. So you've got some swords, like there's one, and then there's 3 more over there, and then there's like 3 axes. So if you wanted to make some hand weapons, you could do that. If you want to do spears, you could do that. If you wanted to do archers, you could do that. So, and you can do a mixture, however many you want. You can have some with helmets, some without, or you can just do all without helmets. Yeah, they give you a lot. They give you enough on every sprue to do pretty much every type of soldier you want. I'm really impressed with it. The quality of each part seems to be very good. There's no mode lines or anything like that. The only thing you'd have to clean off is a burr. Alright, so let's go ahead and start putting these guys together. Alright, so here we go. I got my sprue cutter right here, and I've got my 6 sprues. I think what I'm going to do today is just take one sprue and complete it, and just so you can see what they look like when they're completed, and put the other sprues to the side and complete them afterwards after I do this video. Now there's something I wanted to show you, a little off topic. This green one here is a 25mm square base. It is 25 millimeters, and this is a bolt action base. It's a 25mm round base, but square bases give you at least 25% more surface, because take a look, when you got a round base and a square base, you got these extra corners that'll give you extra real estate to put figures on, or to make them stable, or that's a big advantage. Also, the square bases, if you wanted to put them or rank them up into units, you can, because they fit side by side other square bases. And it being that it's a fairly large base, 25 millimeters is pretty big. You can have your figures facing pretty much in any direction, and you can rank them up, and there's not going to be any, like there was like this old games that I used to play where I'd have to put the figures on the base at a diagonal so that I could put them in ranks, but they would all be standing facing like 45 degrees to the left or right. Where in this case, you can have them facing straight forward and they'll still fit. Alright, now cutting out these figures from the sprue, I'm going to give you a small negative. The figure is so close to the sprue that it was a little tricky getting my sprue cutter in there to cut the figure off of the sprue. Okay, but once I get all these cut off, I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I got the base cut off and trimmed and the figures cut off, I'm going to cut off a set of arms and weapons and heads and shields and bows and things like this for 5 different figures, and I'll put them in their little piles. So let me go ahead and pick and choose which ones I'm going to cut out, and once I get them cut out, I'll be right back. Alright, so we've got the arms. I've got a couple of spears, a couple of bows, and a sword. The spears have shields, the sword has shields. The bows will have, one guy's going to load and one guy's going to fire, and they're both going to have quivers. And now I'm always going to use my DAP rapid fuse, so we're going to go ahead and get this ready. Pick a figure. Now I went through most of these arms and spears and things like that, and I trimmed them. Got rid of the burr from the connection where it connected to the sprue. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue all their left arms on. Either they would be shield arms, or there's this burr I got to get rid of. It's going to be either shield arms or they're going to be bow arms. Let me go ahead and glue them on, and then I'll be right back. Alright, now that I've got the left arms on, all the figures, I'm going to let them dry just a few seconds while I get ready to put their right arms on, which would be their weapons. And so you put a little drop of glue in the shoulder socket, and then you just take the ball joint of the arm and you slide it into the socket. You hold it for a few seconds and it will be dry. So once I get all these right arms in, I'll be right back. Alright, now that I've got the right arms on, I'm going to start gluing on their heads. The heads are very small and fiddly. I used just the regular old skulls. I didn't use the ones with the helmets. I wanted them to look more like, I don't know, skeletons? I don't know if that's a good word. But yeah, so we got all their heads on. Now I'll be gluing on their shields or their quivers or what have you. And then we're just moving on to the next head. Once I get the heads and their accessories glued on, I'll be right back. Alright, so this last figure here, I'm gluing the quiver on. I've decided to glue it onto his belt that's hanging around his waist. The first one I glued it over on his shoulder strap, so it was a lot higher than this one. This one's lower on his waist. I put my hand up there so that you can, so it would contrast against my flesh color and not the black mat. Okay, now it's time to glue them down to these bases. I just apply a little bit of glue and then put them on there. Alright, so that's the last one glued down. It's going to take a minute for these to dry. Actually 30 seconds supposedly. But I'm going to let them dry before I go out and prime them outside. I'm going to use Vallejo bone white for these guys, and then I'll bring them right back in and I'll show them off. You'll be able to see the detail a lot better once they're primed. Alright, now that it's primed, I'm adjusting my focus here. Give me a second to get this focus set up. And there we go. Come on, bring it in. Get it in there. And then you can see the bone white, how it brings out a lot of that detail where you can see it. The gray was a little hard to see on the details. Glued to the waist, got that belt. He's loading the bow. I just got him holding the arrow up to the bow like he's getting ready to fire. Yeah, that's number one. Let's get another one. This is the other archer. This is the one that is getting ready to shoot. He's aiming. You got the arm pulled back. Yeah, now his quiver is also, okay, it's also on the belt. Nice. I thought I put it on his back, but maybe I didn't. Here's the sword and shield. He's holding the shield arm straight out. He's holding the sword up. You can post, position these how you want. There are some shield arms that have bent arms, and the sword, there's multiple sword arms, but this one was just straight. I could have held it lower, but I just wanted to be exaggerated. This guy is thrusting with his spear. You can see the arm is extended. I wanted him to extend his shield as well so that he's guarding himself as he's thrusting. Plus you can see he's kind of bending, leaning back on his back leg. Alright, and the last guy, he's just basically holding his spear at the ready. Has his shield up protecting him. Got him looking up a little bit with the head, crisscross leather straps on his back, some ragged belts or rags. And you can see how big the base is compared to the model base itself. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started painting these, and I'll show you what they look like. Alright, we're going to try a bunch of different colors. We're going to use a brown for the wood, basically the spear halves and the bow, and we'll get those taken care of with some brown. Alright, continuing on, I should be finishing up. I got both spears done, and this should be the second bow that I'm working on, and then we'll move on to another color. Alright, we're going to use a wood brown from Model Master for the arrow shafts. Alright, and that's the pieces of the arrows that are exposed, but also the tops of the arrows in the quivers as well. I'm using Bastion Gray right here, but I'm going to use a variety of earth tones on their rags and belt structures, like yellows and browns and grays. Once I get all those done, we'll be right back. Alright, I'm using white for the feathers of the arrow shafts, the fletching, also in the quivers and the arrows that are out. Alright, once I get all of those done, we'll be right back. And the quiver itself, I decided to use Mage Hunter Green. I thought it was a good neutral color. It wasn't going to be too obnoxious, not too flamboyant, but it would actually give the skeleton a little bit of color. I wanted to have something to make the eye pop. Alright, now I'm using just kind of a metallic gray. It's kind of like pig iron, but also a little bit like gunmetal, and it's going to go on the weapon parts like arrowheads, swords, spear tips. I'm painting these up kind of like as if they were in the Bronze Age. So they're going to have like bronze armor, but their weapons are going to be iron. So on the archer, the only thing that's metal is one arrowhead that sticks out. And like I said, the weapons are all gonna, well, not the weapons, the armor is all gonna be bronze. So I'm putting bronze on the metal plate that's on their breast, and then what do they call that? A pelvic, yeah, pelvic plate or something. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but there is a metal plate on their breast. Also, their shield is also going to be the bronze color. And because I didn't want to paint the shields with any kind of lining, like a cloth fabric lining, because I figured if there were skeletons that came out of the dirt or out of the ground, that fabric would have been gone anyway. So I just go ahead and paint the bronze on the inside as well. Now, did I weather any of these, like with dirt or mud or anything like that? No, but that would be a good thing to try. So let me get all this bronze done, and then I'll be right back. Alright, I kind of just wanted to show you the individual figures here before I go on to my next step. So let me go ahead and zoom in, change the focus, and there you can see this archer, what it looks like. My next step is going to be to wash it. So I want you to be, okay, that's not a good focus. There we go, that's much better. And so I want you to see the different browns, the grays, the green, leather straps, and then we'll get to washing it here in just 1 minute. Wasn't sure if it was dry. I didn't want to grab this spear. Yeah, I can see the shields are not dry just yet, so I can't wash it until those dry. It usually only takes a few minutes, so looks like I got some of that bronze on my finger. And here's the last one. Looks good. He's all like wanting to give you a hug. Alright, so let me go ahead and wash these and I'll be right back. Okay, I washed these with a dark wash, and I was disappointed with that, so I actually washed the wash off with soap and water. And then I went back over it with a light tone, all from Army Painter. And then once the light tone dried, then I went over the bone with some bone. I dry brushed some bone paint onto it, and then now I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. The way the wash brings out the bone shadows and the model the figures and all that. So now I mentioned earlier how you could take these guys and you rank them up, rank and file. So I just wanted to show you what it might look like if you put them into a unit. 25 millimeters, just depends if that's the size of base you need. If it's not, you can always just pop these off and put them on smaller bases, or you can put them, glue them onto bases that you use. But they do come with the 25 millimeter bases, so. Hindsight, I think I would go around the edges of their bases and paint those a little darker green, just to give the bases more of a darker green look, or brown or a green color. Alright, well that is the Oathmark Skeleton Infantry. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope you like the looks of them. I really do. It's made me consider actually getting the Oathmark rules to check out how the game plays and stuff, which I do not know yet. So I'm going to go look that up. Alright guys, well thanks for coming out and watching this video, and I'll see you in my next review.